Welcome back, happy hookers. Today I'm going to be showing you how you can easily make yourself a crochet Christmas tree. Here I've got one in more traditional green, and then for the purpose of today I'm going to be showing you how to make this lovely minimalist Christmas cone in cream. Now the yarn that I've chosen to use, if you are a regular here, is my Cedar #1 Chunky paired with my 5mm hook. It's just such a quick and lovely build, and you can find that your projects are there in no time. So let's get into it. To get started with your Christmas tree, you're going to need to make a magic circle. And if you're not familiar with the magic circle, I will pop a link above to a more in-depth explanation. But essentially I wrap my yarn around my fingers like this, crossing over the front. So I've got my tail here, I've taken it over my fingers like that, brought it back around and crossed it over, and then I'm going to go under the underneath one and pick up this one. When I get to here, I'm going to swivel it to create a crisscross, and then I'm going to pick up the same yarn again and pull it through like so. Okay, but I have got a much more in-depth explanation if you're unfamiliar with the magic circle. So this Christmas tree is crocheted in single crochet, and a good rule of thumb for circular or conical, if you like, crochet is, if you're using single crochet, which is UK double crochet, is to start with a center ring of 6. So we're ignoring this one, we're going to place 6 single crochet into our magic circle. And if you're not comfortable with the magic circle, I would chain 3, join them into a ring, and then just place all of my stitches in the center. It honestly doesn't matter, because you're probably going to be gluing, a star or popping something on the top, so it doesn't matter if it's got a teeny weeny little hole in the top. So we're going to place 6 single crochets into our magic ring. So we're going to insert, yarn over, pull back through for 2, and then we're going to yarn over for the single crochet. And this is I would probably say a advanced beginner pattern. So if you're very, very new to crochet, I would highly recommend pausing this video, having a go at the single crochet, and then having a go at potentially a single crochet in the round. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm going to place 1 more into that center. Okay, 6. So I've got 6. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself a little bit of slack here, and I'm going to take my tail end and I'm going to close my magic circle. What is your magic circle noise that happens inside your head? Because mine is sort of like, oh, as it closes. Hopefully that wasn't too high pitched. And then we're going to put our hook back in, pull the right one, pull this one, and then we're not going to slip stitch to join. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we are going to crochet this in a continuous spiral, which is why I highly recommend stitch markers or a long piece of yarn. Probably, I mean, this you can't fully see is about 1 foot long, but I would say make this yarn about the height of the Christmas tree. And even though I have these stitch markers, I actually favour for speed this technique, which I'm going to show you today. So how is it going to work? This cone is based on a 1 increase per row. Yes, that's right, just 1 increase per row, not 6 increases. If you're used to doing circles and you're used to starting with 6 and you're used to increasing 6 on every row, no, this is 1 increase per row. Now it doesn't matter where you put the increase, and it really doesn't matter if you always put the increase as your first stitch. So long as you are definitely including an increase. So what I like to do is I like to do my first stitch of the row, and this is a little bit tight because I have crocheted. My single crochet is quite tight, so I'm going to place my first stitch into that 6th one. So I'm not slip stitching, I'm just placing a stitch straight in to that next stitch along. Okay, and then what I like to do is I like to then put my marker in. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this piece of contrasting yarn and we're going to insert our hook. We're going to take it out, we're going to insert our hook into this stitch, and we're going to grab hold of it and we're going to pull it through like this, and I would probably pull it through so that you've got about 2/3 coming out the top and 1/3 coming out the bottom, just enough so that it's not going to fall out. Reattach, and that is as simple as that. So I always like to put my first stitch in the row, and then I do my increase by simply placing 2 single crochet into the next round. The beauty of this is we do not have to count. We can sit back, we can zone out, we can just keep going round and round and round, so long as, for me, every time I pop a stitch into this one that my marker's in, I increase the one after. That's honestly it. So you're going to single crochet, 1 single crochet into every stitch all the way around. I'm going to go a little bit slower so you can crochet along with me until we get to the one just before where our marker is. So I'm not going to take this marker out, I am simply going to crochet straight into the place where the marker is and leave the marker in. Do you get me? And then all I'm going to do, in fact I would probably have it the other way around. I would probably have the 3rd coming out the top, can you see, like this, and the rest coming out the bottom, because once I've done that, all I'm going to do is I'm going to pop my hook in, yarn over with that end. Ooh, I do apologise, and pull it through and leave it in. Leave it in where it is. Okay, so the next one I know is my increase stitch. 1, 2, and then I know I just go all the way around with a single crochet in every single crochet. Just grab myself a bit more yarn. Okay, so single crochet into the next, 1 single crochet into the next, and it's this point you'll probably start to feel that it's turning into a cone, and actually with this being the right hand side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I now properly, can you see, I've put my finger behind and I've pushed it because I want the front, or the traditional front, to be on the outside. So 1 single crochet into the next. This is our marker stitch, just ignore it, crochet straight into the stitch that it's in, take your hook out. This time we're going to be going this way. Can you see I'm just pulling it through like so, and then I've got my increase straight after. And what's going to happen is, can you see this length of yarn is going to be woven in and under each stitch all the way along, almost like a running stitch, but it means we don't have to mess about taking a stitch marker out, putting a stitch marker in. This is made of a much thinner yarn, which means it's going to draw through very nicely at the end and be pulled out very much like if you're a seamstress, like you would do a tacking stitch, that's then designed to be taken out. So we've placed our increase in the one straight after it, and all we do is we continue with one single in every stitch all the way around, remembering that we always increase in the row. Now, like I said, I've chosen to increase in exactly the same space, just so that I always remember to, and I will show you at the end how this will look and what this will mean if you increase in the same space. It's not a problem, it just is something that you do need to be slightly aware of. Okay, so we're back round to our one with our marker in, so we're going to yarn over, we're going to take it out, I'm going to put my hook in, I'm going to grab hold of my yarn. Each row you'll either be going in the front of the work to pull it through from the back to the front, but can you see next time we'll be going in from the back of the work to pull it in from the front to the back, because it's obviously either falling in the front or the back. Okay, increase. It's at this point you're also probably going to be getting very annoyed by your magic circle tail. Now, I wouldn't recommend snipping it short. What I would recommend doing is taking the back end of your crochet hook and stuffing it in there to keep it out of the way. So now that your crochet is starting to form a cone, I actually tend to flatten it, and I find it a lot easier to now work with it flattened, working along, turning and working back, than trying to hold it and go around the row like this. You might find having your finger inside the cone works well for you. Like I say, I tend to fold it. All I do is fold it and make sure that this bit's slightly lower down, so that when I'm going through here, if I demonstrate, I'll just double check I've done my double, which I don't believe I have. So do my double. If I'm pushing through there, can you see I'm not also picking up the other side because of the way? So I'd probably do up to here, turn it, readjust, re-squish, and there'll probably be quite a lot of readjusting and re-squishing whilst you've got quite small sections. But once your tree starts to get, you know, this big, you'll be going along quite a lot, and then it'll just be a case of turning. I mean, how easy is this? You can honestly just if you've seen Finding Nemo, if you've got children, you can just keep crocheting, join here, yep, grabbing my hook. Once you get the habit of this, I mean, you'll be pretty swift at it, pulling it through, keeping my place in, increasing, sorry I veered off camera then, increasing in the next stitch, single crocheting all the way around until you get back again. So dependent on how long you would like, how tall you would like your crochet tree to be, I would recommend stopping at a few key milestones. So if you're familiar with a flat circle for a single crochet, you're familiar with it generally goes up in sixes. So we're going 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42, etc. So I would recommend stopping at one of those numbers. So I would recommend stopping when you've either got this 2, 24, 30, 36, etc. Because we're going to then create a flat circle to join to the bottom. And the best thing is for the number of stitches on that flat circle to match up to the number of stitches on the bottom of our cone. So in good old trusty Blue Peter Fascioni, ta-da, here is one I created earlier, and I have chosen to stop this when I have gotten to 30. So I have exactly 30 stitches all the way around. Now I'm also going to take this opportunity to show you the increase in the same place every time. So I can see that my increases every single time. Can you see? She says as she then struggles to find them, or here. Well, actually there's a little bit of variant because I've got this one here, I've got this one here, I've got this one here. But what does happen, if I show you this and then I turn it over, can you see I've got a slight hump on one side because this is where my increases have been, and it has naturally just obviously gone to a point. If anyone's ever crocheted a circle, they'll know that the circles can tend to start to look like hexagons because those increases form points. It's a very simple method of squishing it, turning it round, folding it on the other side, and can you see by folding it on the other side it's absolutely perfectly lined up. And once we get our stuffing in, we'll be doing lots of manipulation, and there are exactly the right amount of stitches to create a perfect cone. So do not be concerned if, like me, you have this kind of humpback whale appearing on the side that your doubles have been. So that's absolutely fine. Okay, so we've got our Christmas tree with 30 all the way around the outside. What we're going to do now is we're going to create the base for it, stuff it and crochet it together. So there's a couple of different options you've got here. You could choose to decorate your tree now simply because you have the ease of being able to get inside to stitch any kind of beads or buttons or embellishments. For this one here, which I created a few years ago, I did actually sew these on at the very end because they are so tiny. I actually used almost like a nylon wire, a bit like a fishing line wire, and because it was so tiny and it wasn't a very large tree, I was able to go through and inside and back out and almost be going through the stuffing, and it didn't cause me any issues, and it certainly didn't, you know, draw in a bit like, you know, if you were doing a I don't know what it's called, what's that technique when you do a piece of furniture and you have those buttons and then they pull it in. If you let me know in the comments. I can't for the life of me think what that technique's called, but no, it didn't cause any issues like that. But either way, or you might be choosing to get the good old trusty glue gun out and glue some pom-poms on, some needle felted balls, you know, anything. But I'm going to actually leave this one plain because I've wanted some minimalist cream tree cones for a while in my lounge, and I am actually going to be placing them next to a couple of displays like this anyway. The other thing that you could consider is popping some lights inside, popping some LED lights in and then popping them through. I wouldn't recommend trying to weave them actually in because these LED lights that you get are great, but you tend to find that the batteries can die on them quite quickly, and you wouldn't want to be having to you know, take them out, especially if it's not one with a good old normal AA or AAA and it's one of those round ones, which there's about 1,000 different variations, isn't there? So let's get on to doing the base of the Christmas tree. Enough rambling for that one. Okay, so this circle is going to be a continuous spiral. Now I really enjoy the continuous spiral, but it does require you to add one extra step in because you're not only having to count and make sure that you're putting your increases in, or the right number of increases versus stitches in the same row, but you have to make sure that you know when you're getting to the end of a round because you're not doing a join. So for that I employ a long piece of contrasting yarn to help me with this. So we're going to start with a magic circle, and if you're unfamiliar with the magic circle or you are new to crocheting, I would recommend checking out a longer video on that, which I'll link above. However, you can chain 3, join the chain of 3 together in a circle, and then simply start placing your stitches into that circle. So my magic circle, I'll do a speedier version here. I lay it over my 2 fingers like this, bring it back around, cross it over the front, going underneath the bottom yarn and pulling the top one through like so, and then spinning around to give myself this loop, which I then use to grab again the same piece of yarn that I can then split and make a mess on camera. Now I can rescue it, that I can then pull through, can you see, so that I've got a slip knot on my magic circle. But like I say, I do have a longer video, but if you want to see it in a little bit more depth. So regardless of whether you've made a magic circle or whether you've crocheted 3 or even 4, join them together to form a loop. What you're going to need to start with is 6 single crochets in the very center. So ignoring this one, we're going to place 6 single crochets into the center. So 2, 3, this is the bit I probably should have pulled some more yarn free before we started filming, but never goes to plan. Okay, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we've got 6. I've crocheted them a little bit loose because I often crochet them far too tight, and then I do really struggle to get my hook into them. So now we're going to pull our magic circle. I'm just going to give myself a little bit more on that. I'm going to pull our magic circle closed with the magical noise in our brains as it closes. And don't feel you have to pull it all the way tight on this very first close. Often what I do is I pull it relatively tight, make sure I've got my next stitch in place before I really give it, you know, a good yank to close it. So we're not going to slip stitch to join together if you're familiar with circles, because this is a continuous spiral. So I am going to just crochet straight into this first stitch. Now what I need to do is then make sure that I've got a stitch marker in place so I know where the beginning is. You can choose to either marker the last stitch on the round, or you can choose to marker the first stitch on the round. It really doesn't matter, just so long as you do remember, oh, my marker's here, this is my last one of the round, or my marker's here, this is the first one of the round. Now with this one, I'm going to choose to marker the last one of the round. So I'm going to take my hook, I'm going to insert it in there, I'm going to take my contrasting piece of yarn, and I'm simply going to pull it through and pull it through so that I've got one end sticking out either side like so, and I'm just going to leave it, and in fact that's going to stay in for the duration of the circle. All we're going to do is re-loop every single circle this one more time. So if you've never done a circle before, think of it as a pie, and however many stitches that we place at the very beginning are the sections of that pie. So because we've got a starting circle of 6 here, 6 is generally what we use for the single crochet, we have got 6 sections. Every row, every round, we will be putting 1 increase in every section. That's as simple as it, that's the maths. The other bit's just a simple case of counting. So because we're at the very beginning and we need to put an increase in every stitch in the section, we need to put an increase in every single one of these. All 6 need an increase. So we're going to place 2 single crochets in every stitch all the way around. So 1, 2, 3, and I've actually just gone and split my stitch. Can you see there? If you do split your stitch, don't be afraid to just pull it down and work out how and why. In fact, I think I actually split it here when I joined, and that was the problem. So I'm going to go back and make sure I properly pick up both of those underneath. So 1 into the same stitch, 2, 1, I can hear my cat. Going bloop. She's going crazy on the stairs. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and that's correct because, can you remember, I'm using my marker, get some more yarn, to show me where my last stitch goes. So I know that my 11 and my 12 are going to go here. So don't worry about this coral yarn, just move it out the way, insert your hook and just crochet as if it wasn't even there for 12. Awesome. So what we need to do now is take a hook out, insert our hook into that last stitch, picking up our contrasting yarn, pulling it through and leaving it there. And then we know that we're ready to go with our next row. So the maths is, for this round, we've got 2 stitches in every section, and we need to pop an increase in one and then just 1 in the other. So increase 1, increase 1, increase 1, increase 1. So we'll pop our increase and our 1 and our increase and our 1, our increase and our 1. It's quite nice that you don't need to necessarily count, you've just got to make sure you're keeping to your pattern. So an increase and a 1, an increase. Apologies if I'm going a little bit too fast, I will pause at the end of the row. Essentially just make sure you're putting an increase and 1 single crochet, an increase and a 1. Now I need to just do a count up here. So increase 1, increase 1, increase 1, increase. Can you see here I actually ended up putting a 2 in, and I'm going to leave this on camera because I think it's really important to show that even I make mistakes, because I know that I should have 2 stitches left at this point. 2 stitches left and I've only got 1. But it was very easy for me to spot. Can you see? I've got an increase here, and then unfortunately I have an increase here. So all I'm going to do, there we go. Perfect. I'm back to where I should be. So increase 1, an increase and 1. And if you're good at maths, you'll have then realised that we've got 6 sections which now have 3 stitches in, 3 stitches in each, 3 sixes. So we've got a row, a finishing round of 18. So let's pull that coral yarn through, capturing our last stitch, ready for our next round. So again with this, we've got 6 sections. 3 stitches currently in each section, and we need to make sure we just put 1 increase. So this time it's going to be an increase, and then it's going to be 2 single crochets straight after that. So 1. Ooh, my whole ball came with me then. So 1, 2, and then an increase. And essentially that's how it works. You will just always be increasing the number of single crochets that follow after your increase by 1 when you're working in a round. I'm just going to check that I'm on track. I would always recommend doing that. So we've got 2, and then my 2 singles, my increase, my 2 singles, my increase, my 2 singles, my increase, my singles. Every time I say my singles, I just keep thinking of Beyonce now. All my single stitches. Somebody who is a hardcore Beyonce crochet fan should definitely do a parody of All My Single Ladies with All My Single Crochets. Is that a little bit nerdy? Possibly is. Okay, so I know now that I have again got to double check, and this is going to be very embarrassing if I'm on camera having gone wrong again. So 2, my 2 singles, 2, my 2 singles, 2, my 2 singles, 2, my 2 singles, 2, my 2 singles. No, that's absolutely fine. So are we ready for it? The final increase and the final 2 stitches, bringing us nicely round to the place where our marker is. I'm going to take out, I'm going to pull my marker. Can you see how handy it is just keeping this yarn in? It also helps to be able to show you, you know, that you're in the same, it is definitely happening at the same point as well. I think it's a really nice technique to have this. Plus, stitch markers, they can fall out no matter how good quality they are. I mean, even these ones, which very rarely fall out, still can. This is going to take some tugging to fall out. So we've got 4 stitches in each section of 6, which means we're on to 24 stitches. So we've only got 1 more round to go until we hit our 30 stitch for this the base of our Christmas tree. Moomin, Mummy's filming. Okay, so this time we're going to increase, then we're going to do 1, 2, 3, because we want 5 in each section. So we've got an increase which gives us 2, and then 1, 2, 3. A little bit more yarn. So increase, increase, single, 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 increase, increase, 3 single crochets in, increase, 3 single crochets. Does anyone use a yarn bowl? I've heard good things. It just came to my mind as my yarn comes flying under the camera. 3 single crochets. Okay, so increase, last one, 3 single. She says increase, I didn't actually do the increase. That's how easy it is to get distracted. If only I wasn't such a all over the place YouTuber that likes to just chit chat to my audience as I'm crocheting along. There we go, 3 single crochets. I probably wouldn't make mistakes on camera, and then everyone will think, wow, what a crazy. Okay, so we've got our 6 sections. Can you see what I mean about them starting to look a little bit like a hexagon, because I've got my increases all in the same section? Oh, the cat is really meowing. very easily, a little bit of blocking, that is going to turn into a circle. That's not going to be an issue in the slightest. There we go. Can you see I've already managed to disguise most of them. So now we have our 2 sections with 30 stitches on the edge of either. Now it's time to assemble it. The first thing you will think or note is that is nowhere near big enough. Look at that. It's not going to work, but it will. It will, as long as the stitches match up. Trust me, it's 100% going to work. So you need to go and to get yourself some polyfiber. This is the bit where mine's actually in the cupboard. So I'll be back by the magic of video editing with my polyfill. So you have a couple of options for the base of your Christmas tree. One, you could simply fill it. However, I tend to find that they can be a little bit wobbly. And that's not because their bottoms aren't flat. It's simply because polyfill is extremely light, and most toys are filled with a little bit more fibre, or they've got something to weight them down. So option 1, ta-da, is to glue it to the base of, glue the base to something. Now I bought these wood slices from Hobbycraft. Hobbycraft's the main sort of crafting shop over in the UK. I only glued them on this year, and that was simply because my cats would knock them over. And I use them for various projects, such as this one, which I showed you earlier on. I've even got this lovely one here, which is utilising a little bit of driftwood. So a nice little memory from the summer through to the winter. So that's option number 1. Well, option number 1 is to just fill it. Option number 2 is to actually glue it to the base of something. Option number 3, if you've ever made door stoppers, is to get yourself a food bag or a small plastic bag, fill it with rice so that its volume is just a small bit at the bottom. And then you can stuff it, then you can pop your bag with your rice in at the bottom. I mean, it doesn't have to be rice. It could be, you know, if you're like me and your cupboard's full of bulgur wheat, quinoa, pearl barley, you name it. I do feel a little bit like, you know, a health food shop at some point. By all means, fill it with that. Just make sure that your bag's obviously secured tight. If you do have children or animals that might get their little hands on and start playing with it, you don't want little bits to scatter about. Equally, if you've got something else that's firm, I'm trying to think of something that might be quite dense that you want to fill it with. Well, I can't at the moment, but you know, only you'll know what you've got around your house. So let's take our bag of ta-da stuffing. So it's at this point I'm going to actually bring the camera up a little bit more, because there we go, we do actually need to see the stuffing. So this is already sort of pre-pulled apart, and I would say this is the point that my cat's going to appear, and that's the best way. It wants to be pulled apart and loose to start with, so that you can actually pack it and make it denser as you go, and it's really personal preference. So I'm going to pop it up into the corner like so. Yes, my cat is now playing with the rustling bag. Moment, are you either gonna come say hi to the Crochet and Tea followers, or steal my thunder like you always do? I don't know if anyone's watched my first crochet podcast, but I just knew she was going to come. Okay, so we're getting there. It feels a little bit like a piping bag. Now what you're looking for here, can you see, is I can see the polyfill through that. Now I'm not too concerned because I did use quite a thick yarn. I used the Sidar number 1 chunky, and I used a 5 hook. What I don't want to do is I don't want to overstretch these, so I'm quite happy with that, and this will take some manipulation, and you could sort of have a bit of a you know, a wonky top if you want. You can really give it a good roll it and squish it, but I'm happy. It's that fine line between not overfilling, but equally you want to make sure you've got enough. Now the most part will go at the base, and you don't want to be squishing this too far in. You just want to make sure that it's not going to fight against this. So the way I like to do it is sort of scoop the edges into the inside like so. So I'm getting all those little bits, and then just squish, 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 squish. And I'm kind of happy with where that is at. I feel it will. Now I am going to be gluing mine to a wooden base, so I'm not particularly too concerned about the fact that it will be a little bit, and it's also, there we go, I need to give it. Okay, so now we're ready to join. So I do still actually have the tail yarn of the cone here, so I'm going to pull that all the way through like so. I'm going to bring it round to the front, and I'm going to take it through the next stitch, and essentially I'm just going to pull it. Ooh, that didn't go as well as planned, did it? There we go. There we go. I'm going to pull it, and then I'm going to tuck it inside by wrapping it round and just tucking it up the side like so. And can you see, look, it's already looking like a little fake Olympic torch / snow cone. So grab your centre and check that you definitely got the same amount of stitches on each one, and then you're going to take this, which you haven't cut off, and you're going to insert it into the back loop only here. You're then going to travel over here to a place of your choosing and insert it. Let's just zoom in for this. Insert it into the front loop here only. Can you see? So we've gone back loop, front loop, and you're going to slip stitch it in. Don't worry about the fact that, look, looks like a little hello, how are you doing? Don't worry as we go round. Yes, here we go. Hi Moomin. Okay, have a little sniff and carry on. Don't worry at all. So into the next stitch, just make sure that you're picking up exactly the next stitch. Would you like to just, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, while I get rid of a very naughty cat. Okay, yarn over and slip stitch through into the next one. And my fiber's falling out, do not worry. Slip stitch, and can you see what's happening is it's very nicely joining together, but it's not causing a curve. And if we have a curve over the edge, what's likely to happen is we'll have, you know, it'll curve to the bottom. So by doing this, it's trying to maintain as flat a base as we can and give it that corner, that coming down. And if you've ever done corners or joins in crochet, you'll be familiar with the concept of the back loop, front loop, slip stitch. So we're going to carry on all the way along until we get back to the beginning. And if you've counted and you've definitely got the exact number, this one, like I said, is 30, you might have gone to 36, 42. If you've got exactly the same number on both of them, they'll match up. Now this is going to always be a bit tricky. Can you see here? This is where I finished off. I just need to make sure that I'm definitely picking up this little teeny weeny stitch here, because that was the one that was next in line. Sorry, I veered off camera then. I'm going to get lots of comments about how you can't see what I'm doing. Now with this one, can you see, because I pulled my stitch over and back around, just make sure we are grabbing this one here, which is sitting on the top. Cat's now trying to get in the cupboard. Moomin, you're disrupting the Crochet and Tea subscribers as they try and make Christmas look more beautiful, and you will not be getting any treats from Mummy if you don't go play. Honestly, I don't know what's worse, animals or children or men. Anyway, not that I'm a man hater, but in terms of interruptions, one of the three is always bound to come in, although that's very offensive to any male crocheters I do have out there, so I do apologise for that horrible stereotype I'm talking about personally for me. Okay, so there we go. We're just we're slip stitching, back loop, front loop, all the way around to the end. Now I've got a choice here. I can either wave you all goodbye, wish you a happy hooker, and skip to the end, or I could continue to crochet along with you, leaving myself open to a very large risk. Well, not a very large risk, leaving you open to a minor risk that I haven't actually counted mine properly, and I do end up with one stitch too many or not quite enough stitches. So I'm going to brave it, and I'm going to do it all the way to the end with you guys, because if I do end up with one, please don't give me any negative comments for being unprofessional, because like I say, I'm just showing you it happens to everybody if you make mistakes. Let's have a quick recap. I mean, look at that. That's really starting to now nicely take shape. It's got a lovely edging. I can just see that little stitch actually that I took over and down. So that's possibly going to be the back of my Christmas tree. But I mean, if you don't have a designated front and back of your Christmas tree, like I suspect the majority of people do, you put all the good baubles, you know the method, around the front and the sides, and you do not bother with the back. That is definitely going to be the back of mine. So halfway, I would say halfway there, trying to show you without blurring or veering off so that you can't see it. In fact, I hold my, I crochet with the pencil method. However, for the purposes of this, you may actually find it a lot easier if you use the knife method for this technique. And in actual fact, no, I just completely messed that up. I do not find that easier at all. I think I'm finding it trickier on camera because I'm having to keep it all in, you know, the same space within the camera frame, and normally I would probably be doing this and it would be moving all over the place as I veer about. It always seems to take twice as long to crochet on camera because, one, I'm trying to go slow and it's a tutorial. I'm not, you know, I'm not blind to that fact, but you can either look through a little bit of an insight. You can either look through the lens and look at the crochet, which can be a little bit of an odd combo, or you can look directly at the crochet, which is where you can then end up going, oh, and I'm doing this, and then all of a sudden, you know, you've dragged it away and realised you filmed 20 minutes off camera that you're not going to get back. I mean, there we go. This one worked quite well because I was actually really pinching them together quite nicely. So here is a good place to demonstrate. Can you see how what potentially looked like it was not going to fit does actually pair up very nicely? And I mean, even if at the end of this I don't end up with the right amount of stitches, I mean, I'm 99.9% sure I am, but I would still be very happy with that because I haven't got an excess of one, or, you know, not enough of another. I wondered, that was very odd then, I couldn't think of the opposite of excess. Anyway, so final few stitches and we'll be at the end of our tree, and we can see now quite nicely, can you see, I'm able to pinch them together. Lovely, there we go, like if you were edging, bringing anything together. This technique is very useful on slippers. In fact, I don't know if anyone's ever seen, but I saw an amazing tutorial from somebody who bought a pair of insoles and hole punched all the way around them, did a blanket stitch onto them, and then attached to crochet and managed to crochet slippers with soles. I just thought it was amazing, and she did a lot of this technique to get the corners. So we are nicely back now, and can you see it does actually look somewhat like something from, you know, The Nightmare Before Christmas, because it's been squished to aid me in this technique, and we just need to reform it, remodel it. So cut yourself a pretty decent amount of yarn, pull that through. You're going to want a darning needle, which if I was really good I would have got ready. These are amazing from Amazon. I have always put it back in the container. I can't say other ones have received that same fate. They're probably all down the side of my sofa. And then we're going to join this by bringing it over here. Now we've got a couple of options here. We could just bring it over and pop it straight in here and take it down and forget about it, but all I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that this last stitch is being tugged like this, and I'm actually going to bring it in between the two rows. So I've got this one here and this one here, this one here and this one here. Can you see? I'm going to pop it in just here like this. This is great that it's blunt, but it doesn't want to go through polyfill. So there we go. I'm going to take it all the way and bring it out of the bottom. Oh, this is always the one. Which one do you pull? Which one do you pull? I'm going to go this one. Yes. Perfect. And then I'm going to tidy that up. And then I'm going to mimic some of these stitches here. So I'm going to go out here, underneath, and back across here, so that it is mimicking. So I'm going to go back into the center like so, and back out here. And I'm only going to do this a couple of times because I doubt that I'm going to be putting these in the washing machine or anything like that. I'd like to think they'll stay relatively clean, so it isn't as imperative that my ends. So this is the fun bit. This bit, which was tucked in, was because I did it on the, here's one I did earlier. This one, for some reason, I think I left out because I was planning on using it to tie something together. So that would, if you had chosen to do that, it's simply just a case of taking your needle and feeding it back into the bottom, like so. Taking it back out. There we go. And then I just snip that off about there. So this is the bit where we get to do the nice, just clear the decks, the nice little modelling. Pop that over, pop that in. And there we go, are nicely ready to go with, fine, I think that's probably for me. There we go, look at that. That's a really great angle. Oh, Christmas tree, Christmas cone. It's going to take, I'm going to be squishing with it for ages. What I'm probably going to do is get my clothes steamer on it, but I'm kind of happy with that. I'm going to make a few different size ones. I'll probably make a half size one. Take it to, if this was 30, I'll probably do an 18 and a 24 one to sit next to it. So thank you ever so much for watching. Please do give this a thumbs up. I can't tell you how much thumbsing up a video really does help a channel in terms of getting that video in front of other crocheters who may also really benefit from this. If you make any of these, I'd love you to tag me. I'm over on Instagram, @Crochet and Tea. I respond to all my DMs, all my comments. Happy hooking, and I'll see you soon. Bye.